Welcome back. It's Tim and Julie Harris, and this is your favorite daily real estate coaching and training podcast. This is, of course, Real Estate Coaching Radio. Warning, today is Friday, and every Friday, Julie and I give ourselves permission that you all have granted us years ago to have what we call Fun Fridays, where we'll talk about usually some real estate stuff, but stuff that's not usually about real estate is what we try to focus on because we're trying to have fun. We're sharing with you guys some of the things that Julie and I listen to, read, pay attention to throughout the week to sort of keep things more interesting than just constantly thinking about real estate. With that said, we're going to start out talking about real estate. It's our first topic because we've been getting a lot of emails and questions from podcast listeners and coaching clients about what to do when you have a lot of listings that aren't selling. So we're going to start out with some more traditional material. Now, remember our podcast, we have literally thousands and thousands of podcasts you can watch on YouTube or you can listen to over on whatever your favorite platform is, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, et cetera, et cetera. So go and listen to any of our past podcasts. Yeah, there we go. So Julie, let's roll into the first question that we've been getting a lot of. And the first question really is from agents who are for the first time taking listings, right? And some of them are taking a lot of listings and they don't quite know what to do with these listings after they sit on the market for more than 22 seconds. So they have no plan. So let's just jump right in.
That's right. And in that sense, it fits right into our Freaky Friday theme, because for some agents, that is a little freaky, taking listings and not having them sell in 22 seconds, as you said. So the question comes in a variety of tones. One is, can you have too many listings? How many is too many to manage? Agents will say, how do I manage? What do I talk? What do I say to them after it's been 2 weeks, right? So use our Premier Coaching Sellers Pre-Qualification to make sure that you're dealing with motivated sellers. That's going to help you. And yes, if you're handling 10 at a time, maybe the 11th one you don't take because they don't really care if it sells or if it doesn't sell. Does that make sense? Some of this goes back to pre-qualification.
Well, yeah. So Julie's giving you guys some, high level coaching stuff here, but the essence of it is if you have a seller, let's make this really practical. So let's say, for example, you are starting to take listings for the first time ever. You're a coaching client. You're following our 7-step listing process. You're saying, oh my gosh, it's actually working. Tim and Julie's coaching program kicks serious ass. I'm sure thousands of you are thinking just that. So you're now taking listings. You don't know quite what to do with them. Well, let's start with the basics, Jules. Let's assume that you have pre-qualified them. Let's assume that you've answered or gotten all the questions answered with regards to what the seller's motivation is. You know what their time frame is. You know what their expectation is, their financial needs, all the things that are necessary for you to be a good, effective listing agent. So you've done all of that. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, again, follow the 7-step listing process that we teach you guys in Premier Coaching, is you're going to have to completely understand the market. And this spring, really rolling into the summer, is more dynamic than any of the previous years because we have so many different things going on between the tariffs and the interest rates and the increasing of new construction listings and the 20% more resale listings over this time last year. Lots of variables that are making it so that you have to be a very astute pricer. And again, we teach you guys how to do that in Premier Coaching, but assuming you've done all those things well, you're going to have to really understand that no matter what, your days on the market is your days on the market. And I'll give you guys an interesting example, and this isn't directly related, but it's sort of related. You can't really easily beat the numbers if you have 10 listings at all times, let's say, and your average sale price is $500,000. And your average, all the things. And these are normal houses. Nothing's really extraordinarily good or extraordinarily bad about those. Your listings are going to sit on the market, assuming you keep them priced competitively, in the eyes of the buyers in the market, right? Your days in the market is going to be what the days in the market is, unless you have an outlier variable of a lower price, unless you have better condition or better location. So if your average days in the market for a $400,000 or $500,000 or $600,000 or whatever dollar price house is 4 months, 3 months, 90 days, you better understand that, and you better be setting the expectation of that seller. So that's, what they're expecting, how long Mr. Seller, listen, in this market, it's taking on average about 4 months, 141 days to sell a property or whatever the number is. And so this is how I'm going to be communicating with you while I have the property listed. Now, if the seller, to Julie's point, if the seller has a higher level of motivation, you can price the house more competitively and get it and break the averages. So for example, and this is something we teach you guys to do in Premier Coaching, but it's a really great technique. Imagine if Julie's notes here for today's show were a list from the MLS of all the homes that are for sale that are between, let's say, 475 and 525. And this list is a list of all the homes that have sold in the last, say, 60 to 90 days that are also in that same price category. And what I want you to do, and let's assume they're all legit comps, 4 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. You guys get the gist of it. Same size lots, built area, everything's similar enough. And what you're going to point out to the seller is that, first of all, the average days in the market, which will be at the bottom of your report, it's going to show whatever the average is, and then show to them that the houses that are selling the quickest are the outlier houses. And so, Mr. Seller, listen, this is putting all these thoughts together for you guys. When you're putting up a house for sale, Mr. Seller, there's 3 variables. There's price, condition, and there's location. Price, condition, location overrule everything. No matter marketing, advertising, nothing is going to overcome price, condition, and location. So, Mr. Seller, fortunately, we have a great location because we can't change it, right? And if they don't have a great location, don't say they have a great location. Just say, be honest about what the location is. You always love the house, never say anything bad, basic sales skills, but be honest. So, Mr. Seller, fortunately, our location is right in alignment with what the competition's location is. We don't have any busy roads. We don't have any power lines. We don't have anything that's going to, make someone, your house isn't next to a junkyard, that sort of thing. Location is good. Condition is in alignment with the condition of the comps, right? So you've got 4 bedrooms, you've got a 30-acre lot. Your house was built 10 years ago. Most of the competition is similar to your property. So there's nothing really that we can do to, really need to or have to really change the condition unless you wanted to put in a new kitchen. Are you planning on doing that? No. Unless you wanted to make your 4-bedroom house into a 5-bedroom, then it would make us more competitive. Are you willing to do that? No. Unless you're willing to. Okay. So the condition is what the condition is. The location is what the location is. Julie, your computer's bouncing around. So the only thing that leaves for us is going to be the price. And so, Mr. Seller, when you're putting a house for sale, it comes down to 3 variables: price, condition, and location. And you have to realize that the only thing we can truly control is how it's positioned on the market and what the buyer's expectations are. You guys getting what I'm getting at here? So then on that list of MLS comps, you're going to show that the houses that are priced the least amount are the ones that generally sell the fastest with the least amount of showings and with the shortest period of time, the fewest days in the market. Why does all this matter? You have to adjust that approach accordingly, depending on what the seller's motivation is. If the seller has to fire sale that house, or maybe they're just not emotionally attached to it, whatever, they inherited it or whatever, they just want to get rid of it. And let's say you can price that house so that essentially it's going to be more competitive than anything on the market. Now, if they do have a condition problem, or if they do have a location problem, this also can lend obviously adverse days in the market. Then you have to make up for those condition and location issues with regards to price. In a market that's a seller's market, you can have one of the variables that's a little bit screwed up. You can have maybe price wrong, condition wrong, or location wrong. But in a market where there's a lot for sale, which is what we're entering into, you have to have all 3 of those variables right, or the house isn't going to sell. Julie, what do you think?
Well, that's right. So what you're talking about is several things at once. One is be very aware of what the average days on the market is running for that subject property, because it might be very different than the last house that you sold. And it could be different than tomorrow's listing presentation too. So know what it is in the first place. A lot of agents aren't used to even being conscious of that. The assumption is it's going to sell right away, right? And there are still markets where that's true in different price ranges that may be true. So that's one thing. The second thing that you're talking about is if you intend to defeat the average days on the market, then you have to do things to do better than the average days on the market. You have to be staged better. You have to allow all showings. You can't complicate the process, and you better have the best price you can get, right? If you intend to do better than, like, let's say it's an average days on the market of 100, but your seller needs to move in 60. Well, technically they should have been listed 2 months ago, but they're not. So now you've got to price more aggressively, and you've got to be the most sparkling, beautiful home that's easy to see. Otherwise, you are set to do at least the average, maybe even longer than the average days in the market, because while you're sitting there for sale, the average days in the market might continue to stretch out, and your competition also might be sitting there. And then, other things can happen. Somebody can, greatly reduce the price, then they sell before you do. So you've got to be more frosty on this stuff.
Would you agree though, Julie, even if they have, let's say not a great location, not a great condition, but if they have a great price, the house is going to sell.
Yes, price overcomes everything is the rule.
Price overcomes everything. That's the most important variable. The price is going to overcome everything because you're going to attract a different kind of buyer. And especially if you start meandering into the price range where an investor is going to want to buy it, that's a completely different ball of wax.
Well,
But
there's actually a script for that in Premier Coaching, right?
of course,
Of course, when a seller says, so let's say that, the new reality for some of you is you're going to have some price reduction conversations. A seller will often say, well, I don't want to give it away. And what we talk about I mean, you don't want to give it away either. Your job is to get them the best price you can, but ask the seller, well, what would the give it away price be? Let's say that they're 650 and they should be 625. Well, gosh, I don't know. Maybe if we were at like 600, that'd be giving it away. Okay, so based on our comps, if we were to be, say, 599, what do you think would actually happen? And the seller will then say to you, I guess we get multiple offers. And what happens when you have multiple offers? We're certainly not giving it away. The price goes up, not down. So there's different ways that you can craft those conversations, but the best price reduction conversation is the one that you don't have to have because you priced it right in the first place.
but Julie, it is important also to point out the fact that in a market like this, because they're competing with a lot of agents that are centers of influence and past clients and aren't going to want to have the, more truthy conversations with the sellers. A lot of listings are going to be overpriced. These guys are going to be competing with a lot of agents who are overpricing listings, all these things, all the normal nasty variables of real estate when if you are overly, you have to be strategizing what the plan is. If you have to end up taking an overpriced listing, like Julie just said something, and I don't want you guys to interpret what she just said is not taking the listing, even if you have to take it overpriced. There's no victory in not taking the listing. You win when you take the listing. If you have to take a listing overpriced, take the listing overpriced, but you have to be honest with the seller and say, Mr. Seller, let's say it's a $600,000 house, to Julie's example, and they want to price it at 625, and let's say another agent told him 625. Mr. Seller, listen, I understand why you feel the house is worth 625. And now I've seen the house. I can understand that. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and price it now at 625. And let's see what the market tells us. So the market's going to tell us the truth, right? So after 2 weeks or 10 showings, if we don't have a written verified offer on your property, then we will agree to reposition the house on the market essentially we'll reposition the house on the market so that it correctly reflects the buyer's expectations. That's all you say. And then if it's today you're writing a contract or you're writing a listing contract, you denote on there that you're going to have a conversation with them on this particular date about repositioning the house on the market. Be careful that you don't say any seller trigger words like lower the price or things like that. Keep money conversations. You got to be really sensitive to the fact that most people try to avoid talking about money like they avoid talking about the plague. So if you start being the bearer of things that cause them stress just because you're not being very strategic in choice of your words, it's called bedside manner. You're not going to get the listing. But I will say, Julie, what this market's clearly setting itself up for is a absolutely boom market in the late summer, early fall for expired listings. Now, yes, we did say this too, that there is a plan that is in Premier Coaching that does give you an exact day-by-day plan on what you should be doing to service that seller, because you're going to have to mentally condition yourself. It's 4 months, right, Julie? You're going to have to
120, 12-week seller communication plan.
Right. So you're going to have to mentally condition your seller and yourself to overservice that seller, because I'm going to give you guys the biggest secret in real estate about being a successful listing agent, right? Here it is. The key to being a successful listing agent is, Julie Harris,
be the listing agent when it actually sells and closes.
Have the listing when it sells. And
in other words, don't let it, we have a rule for all of our coaching clients, right? You can't have an expired on your watch. You can take other people's expireds, that's fine, but you can't have it happen to you. The biggest mistake that agents are one of the biggest mistakes right now is just that lack of communication and leaving it out there hanging. And it's weekend number 3 and showings are slow and you're not quite sure how to talk to the seller. So you don't call them because you don't want the conflict. And then the seller's wondering, what have you done for me lately? So that's why we have the 12-week seller communication plan. It gives you things to say and how to say them. Things like, while we've been on the market, we've had 3 new properties that have popped up that we weren't competing with before. I've gone ahead and previewed them. This one is about the same. This one has a few more bells and whistles and is actually priced a little bit more competitively. And this one is a teardown. You need to know more than your seller does, especially your most motivated sellers. they are watching. They might not be calling you and telling you that they're watching what's happening in the neighborhood, but they absolutely are the most motivated ones, which, by the way, are the ones that should be selling right away. And you don't want to get fired just because you're not communicating. And sellers
Well,
do that.
and they pay attention to what's sold too. That's the main thing.
Absolutely.
They're looking for new listings, and you need to be bringing to them on a regular basis the information about solds, but also pendings. And because if you get caught flat-footed knowing where they know more than you about their listing, that's going to go in their little, mental
Yes.
Rolodex about you, and chances are you're going to get fired.
They don't think good things when they don't hear from you.
No, exactly. So that's where
Ever.
you need to follow our communication plan and communicate with them on a regular basis. By the way, you guys, if you're not already in Premier Coaching, what the heck are you waiting for? We've made it very easier for you to be in Premier Coaching. All you've got to do is, go to premiercoaching.com and join, and your first 30 days is free. A lot of you have been asking us about Ethical Real Estate Professional. That is our exclusive designation. It's a limited edition designation. Only 2,500 agents will ever be allowed to become ethical real estate professional agents. And ethical real estate professional is included with Premier Coaching if you choose to go VIP. If you want more information on all of this, which all of you absolutely should be doing now, is join Premier Coaching. Just go to premiercoaching.com. This is your turnkey A to Z solution for scaling your real estate business. Maybe you want to stay a lone practitioner. That's great. The system is designed for you. If you want to build a big, successful team, that's great. The system is designed for you. Branding, marketing, advertising, proactive lead generation, passive lead generation, pre-qualifying, scripts, objection handlers. We have a very famous pre-listing pack. A lot of you guys wanted to just join Premier Coaching and become ethical real estate professionals so you can have the pre-listing package. We have a pre-listing package, listeners, for both buyers and for sellers. And it's already done for you. All you've got to do is plug yourself in. So just go to premiercoaching.com. And again, go VIP when you're checking out, and then you have full access to all 13 levels of Premier Coaching, including immediately becoming an ethical real estate professional. So premiercoaching.com is the solution you've been looking for all the things that trouble you about this changing market in real estate. And I have to say, you've got to be at least in your thinking 6 months ahead of where the market is. And Julie and I just, gave you a little foreshadowing of where the market's going to be. One of the greatest opportunities it's been in real estate for the last 24 months has been expireds, but the number of expireds that we're going to see the second half of this year, especially going into the fall and winter, is going to be almost overwhelming because there's 20% more inventory for sale. The 20% more inventory is being listed mostly by agents. 50% of the list are agents that are inexperienced, that aren't pricing it right, that aren't getting the houses lowered to be in alignment with the market's expectations. Those are all your future listings. If you know how to go after expired listings, we show you exactly what to do. It's in premiercoaching.com, and go there right away. Premiercoaching.com. All right, Julie, now let's get to stuff that's fun.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So if any of this conversation is stressing you guys out, listeners, just come to Premier Coaching so that we can help you, because there are a lot of moving parts. There's some systematization to happen. Most of my elite coaching clients, they've got 20 to 40 active listings, most of them. And they have these thoughts too. It's just at a higher amount of units, right? And so they're like, okay, how do you talk to 20 sellers a week? Well, you do the same thing that we're coaching you to do, that we're talking to about this. So don't let this worry you. Just become Premier Coaching client and we will help you.
All right,
Okay,
so now we're getting to the Freaky Fun Friday aspect of the podcast. The reason we started out with some real estate stuff is obviously we're real estate coaches, but because we've had a lot of people asking about it. Now we get to talk about the zany stuff that's kind of off the wall. So Julie, in the past week, what are you thinking? What are you reflecting back upon? What were the 3 most surprising, like if you were to create a highlights reel for yourself personally in the last week, what would they be?
Well, as you know, I like a lot of nerdy stuff that's off the menu from real estate just to keep my mind fresh. But, something that I can't believe wasn't talked about more was this. What they said was probably the best evidence that we are not alone in the universe, this alien algae on this planet called K218b. I think they could have come up with a better name for this planet, but maybe we'll rename it, right? So just last month, and this was hardly even talked about, that big James Webb Space Telescope spotted something wild on K218b, the super Earth, which is 124 light years away in the constellation of Leo, okay? And this is very specific. This is not speculation. This is actual evidence, okay? So nerd out with me just for a second. Chemical fingerprints of, it's a chemical called dimethyl sulfide and dimethyl disulfide, gases linked to microbial life exactly like marine life on Earth, and not just a little bit of it. It's basically on the entire planet. It's an ocean-covered planet. It's orbiting a red dwarf. It's in an area which is called by astronomers the Goldilocks zone, which is where Earth lives, where we have oxygen and we have the right amount of sunlight and all these things. That's called the Goldilocks zone. This planet is in a similar zone. And they believe that it is probably teeming with lots of little marine critters. And, they're looking at this levels 20 times higher than Earth's. They need more data just to rule out if there's any non-biological sources like some comet chemistry that could be on this planet. But astronomers were like absolutely crazy about this, that they think that this is really serious evidence and nobody's talking about that. I guess we're too excited about tariffs or something.
Well, we're not going there anytime soon. It's 124 light years away.
No, but isn't it still interesting to know that there could be life 124? It's not 124 million light years away. It's just,
No, I get it. I get it. What's really incredible is the fact that they can see it with the telescope. That's bonkers.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
So that's something I've been following to just see how that develops and what that might be like. So
that is cool. I mean, you should definitely explore it. So you're saying when they're looking through these telescopes, they're able to, they're just essentially using
they're seeing evidence of chemicals. So chemicals have a signature that can be sensed, can be seen by these crazy huge telescopes. This is not something you can see with your backyard telescope or your binoculars, but the Webb telescope can. So.
We talked about this before. You and I love to talk about this alien stuff. And I'll ask you now that you've been studying this more, because you hadn't really told me about this. You mentioned it a couple of Freaky Fun Friday shows ago, but what effect would it have if there was actually a definitive declaration of the discovery of life on interstellar life? What do you think would actually happen? Did you put any more noodling to that?
Well, to me, my first thing is, isn't that interesting? And let's find out more about that. And how can that be? And if there is that one planet, there could be a lot more and a lot more variety. That's one thing, is just from a scientific standpoint. But from a humanities standpoint, you and I discussed this a little bit a couple of Fridays ago, that probably we'd all come together more as a planet, as just like we have more similarities as humans than whatever else is out there, versus looking for all of our differences with all of these issues that are trying to make us all hate each other all the time. Now, how long that would take and how that would manifest, I don't know. But I think that ultimately it does remind me in a way about how we all came together after 9/11. We were just
even the pandemic. I mean, right?
To some extent, COVID too.
Well, it obviously came unglued, but initially from the get, we were all sort of on the same page. But I think that is humanity's natural tendency, is when under strife, we definitely have an instantaneous unifying stance that we go to. We go to this place of wanting to defend, or wanting to basically look after each other. And it is kind of fascinating that that happens on a micro level too, not just like, hey, we discovered aliens on this planet, but it happens even in the industry, where even in the real estate industry, any industry, when there's something external that's adversely affecting and people, the industry or the prospects of the people in it, generally speaking, it brings things together. It makes people more cohesive, and it also allows the real leaders to arise, because it's the old when all the ships are, when the tides are rising, all ships rise, and the kind of thing, when the tides go out, you can see who was swimming without a bathing suit kind of thing. I just mixed two analogies, but you get the idea of it. And I think that would probably what would happen, is we would actually see there would be a unification behind the shared beliefs that I've been dancing around with what I'm trying to express, but the essence of it is I think people would rediscover spirituality in a very traditional sense instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Because we would try to understand it, and the moving away from organized religion would reverse overnight. That would be what I'd suspect would happen.
Probably. Something interesting to follow. So,
well, have you noticed, Julie, we've been doing these masterminds. So we've done so far in the last 30 days, well, I'd say the last 3 weeks, we've probably done 10 masterminds. Mm-hmm. And the masterminds that we're doing, have you noticed the nature of the questions are people that we could easily just be having on this podcast right now and just be having, they could be an equal participant in this conversation. Like most of you guys listening and watching, you think and feel almost, we're all like the same, And so how is it that we all found each other? We found each other. Our podcast took off during COVID, it really went to the next level during COVID, because a lot of people were looking to connect with other people that were also in alignment with their beliefs. And they're also, Julie and I are inherently very optimistic, forward-thinking people, and you guys were looking for a connection to people that thought like that, despite the fact that we were dealing with this global pandemic, right?
Mhm.
I think we're dealing with something like that very similarly right now. And I'll say this with confidence. I see it manifesting on the masterminds we're doing, because the masterminds that we're doing, the questions and the people that are showing up, Julie and I have been coaching and training and doing public presentations of some variety or another for over 20 years. And there's always been a certain percent of whatever audience, virtual or otherwise, that's going to be, Julie and I used to do live events all the time, and there'd always be some grouchy man in the back of the room,
Yeah.
loudly reading his damn newspaper, who wanted attention, who wanted to distract, who wanted to be the contrarian. And those types of people have always been around. They're just essentially lonely types that are wanting attention, wanting to feel important, wanting to, I'm not getting any of that on these masterminds. On these masterminds, people are very optimistic. They really like the fact that we are reminding them that they're in the right place at the right time, reminding them that they're in blessed situations in their lives because they're in real estate. And we're definitely at the beginning stages of a 25-year real estate boom, reminding them that their best days of their lives can still be ahead of them. That's what I'm seeing on these masterminds. And it's really, for me, it's been a real alignment with what our highest and truest purpose is, which is being a service to all of you. So for those of you who have attended the masterminds, I really want to thank you, because you've rekindled, and I'm not going to say rekindled, but you've certainly constituted my belief in all of you in the path that Julie and I are on.
Affirmed, maybe.
Affirmed. Thank you. Yes, we share a brain. Julie's is operating on more IQ points today, obviously. So the moral of the story is that we are very grateful for all of you who have attended the masterminds and the great feedback that we've been getting. And if you'd like to attend one of our masterminds, we are going to schedule 3 more. We're working our asses off because we know a lot of you guys need to be pulled in the direction of where you want to go. And we're doing our best to do it. And if you want to register for our upcoming masterminds, just go to harrismastermind.com. It's very simple. And like I said, we're going to be doing 3 more. We're going to do 1 today. So just go to harrismastermind.com and register for the next mastermind. You can choose your day. You can choose your time, harrismastermind.com. And the last mastermind we did ran about 2 hours. Every one of them is running about 2 hours. And that includes answering your questions. So just go to harrismastermind.com and definitely register. All right, Julie, point number 3. Is Inky's, oh, you told me about this one. This one's hilarious.
The next 2 are both octopus stories.
Okay, Inky's Great Aquarium Escape.
Yes. Now, there is a tie-in, okay? Freaky Friday, right? We just talked about aliens. People study octopuses. This is octopi. This is a whole other thing that you can really, I was going to say rabbit hole, but really it's an octopus cave that we're going on right now.
I'm asking just for a second.
Yeah.
I want you guys to understand, this is what it's like being married to Julie. I'm not even kidding. So 2 days, 3 days of the week, we go on 6-mile walks around the property where we live. And I'm wanting to talk about, real estate things, the business, maybe Formula One, different things like that. And I promise you, every single day, she's bringing stories like this. And I'm not complaining, but I'm just hoping you're understanding. When you're listening to Julie and I present to all of you guys, this is what she's truly like. I mean, this is the reason her daughter calls her a nerd, because she is. But that's okay. We love you, Julie.
I admit to it. It's okay. That's not on every podcast. We did warn them this is the Freaky Friday. So, all right. So here we are talking about octopi. Inky the octopus pulled off a daring escape from New Zealand's National Aquarium. Inky squoze through a tiny tank gap. The octopi are known for escaping from their aquariums. They're not really down with that stuff. Inky slithered across the floor, down into a 164-foot drain pipe, and escaped into the ocean. How do they know this? Because Inky left suction cup trails so they could follow what happened to Inky. Didn't cover his tracks. I guess he could have squirt ink at it, but he didn't care. Got out into the ocean. And this is just one example. There's tons of octopus escape stories. And Inky is just one of the more famous ones. The second one is number 4.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Is this,
he's still out there.
Okay. So that was and I don't imagine, but Inky had like a social media following, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. I think I'm pretty sure, I have to look this up, but I believe if you go to Amazon, there's actually a kid's book about Inky and about all the different escapes that Inky did before he went out to the ocean. I think it's actually called Inky's Great Escape, something like that.
But do you see Inky?
Mhm.
Inky has just blown apart the whole empire that was created around him and his escapades of trying to escape because he
Uh-huh.
finally figured out the grand escape. And now, if I were
He's out of
Inky's
there.
keeper, so if Inky's keepers are paying attention right now, I'm going to give you a little suggestion. That obviously is a very smart animal. You want to leave those drains open. You want to make it so if he wants to, he can come home one day and crawl back in his aquarium. And don't be surprised if he does just that.
Maybe he just wanted a snack, you know? Maybe he
Yeah.
doesn't like what you're feeding him. He'll come back. So the next one, and this is another example from New Zealand. A clever octopus turned into a prankster. Night after night, it squirted water at overhead bulbs, short-circuiting the lab's lights and plunging the facility into darkness. Staff were baffled until they caught the three-hearted trickster in the act, proving octopuses again master problem solvers. Apparently, there was a bright light that was really bothering this particular octopus, and they didn't figure it out until several nights later when all the lights had been blasting out, and they watched what happened. He was squirting a light so he could have darkness. Now, that's one of many, but one of the ones that I call them mind snacks, right? So a
Hold on,
5 minute.
you went over that too fast because that was really
Yeah.
funny. So the
Okay.
squid, basically, they had an obnoxious light. It
Octopus.
was
Yeah.
sorry, octopus. There's a difference. Like I said, listeners, nerd. Anyway,
Sorry.
so they are obviously very
They kept losing power and the lights would go out. They didn't know what the heck was happening day
he
after
didn't
day,
like
night
this
after night.
obnox he didn't like this light that they put over the aquarium. And so he would stick one of his little legs up and shoot it at the light to short circuit the light to the point where on the regular, they'd call an electrician. The electrician would have to come out, fix the blown light from the, ink being shot into the open electrical outlet.
Yep.
And that was Inky, getting his way. And then they finally put a camera in the room to find out what the hell's going on. And they see indeed that this little dude was that smart. That's
Yes,
incredible.
that's right. Now, there are tons of stories like this, and one might wonder why they don't just make a tighter lid on top of the aquarium. Maybe there's something about the air. I don't really know the answer to that, but there are so many of these stories. One of the ones that I watch for maybe 5 minutes a day, because he's quite a prolific poster on, I think it's an Instagram one, is an octopus named Marty that you guys can find. Now, Marty has a lot of personality. And yes, in case you're wondering, you can actually go to an aquarium store and get a pet octopus. Now, that's way too much responsibility for me. I'm not, these guys are so smart. It's crazy. So I like watching Marty because
Hold
his,
on. Everyone, we're going to start a GoFundMe for Julie to have a Christmas present. We're going to get a saltwater aquarium for her, and we're going to get her own octopus.
and I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. Well, so Marty is kind of famous because his owner gives him these puzzles to do all the time, like unscrewing jars, because he'll put like a little squid snack in there or a clam or something that Marty likes. And he'll see it. You can see the octopus is looking at it. And he knows that that's going to be his next meal, but he has to figure out how to unscrew the lid. Well, he's gotten really good at this. So now the next one is he put a small jar inside a big jar. Now he's got to do two of those. And this has gotten to be like an entertaining thing, right? So one of the things that this guy does is he takes like those little hamster tubes that have, like a maze where there's different routes they can go. And the octopus will have to, because they can squeeze down really small and then go and find it. So it's just fun to watch Marty. But the thing is, Marty will come up to him when he sees this guy. They like have this whole relationship where Marty comes up, he crawls over the top, he likes to be held, you can pet him. He said you have to be really careful because once an octopus falls on the ground, they're really hard to get back up because of their suction cups. You don't want to pull their legs off or something. So he puts them on a little wet towel. It's crazy. Like you have no idea. And the thing is that they're so smart. Some of the things that they do, evident by the escape and all of these different things. But I think Marty's kind of fun because he's demonstrating how smart they are. And once he riddles out, how to get his prey, he flashes this light show because, they can change color. Like he's all happy. I mean, we're assuming he's happy. He's crunched him up. So anyway, I started
Julie,
this all a few weeks ago when we were talking about that octopus that has the fish that hunt with him. Remember that one?
yeah. So down at the end of our street here is the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an octopus that had, do you remember this is maybe 2 years ago? You remember that
couple
story?
of our friends have seen, there's supposed to be one, now they changed color, but when this was reported by, remember, I can't remember her name now, but she was running the aquarium thing that Zoe went to during
Oh, yeah.
COVID. Yeah. So she said it was a fairly good sized orange one that she saw in the reef that's like 100 feet offshore. So they're
Yeah.
out there. I mean, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting a little beach time this weekend and looking for some octopus. I'm not
Yeah.
going to go petting them though, so
Well, why not? They don't bite.
I don't know. I just well, no, they don't bite. I don't want to freak them out.
You're,
I don't know.
you're
Maybe I
worried
will.
about freaking them out, or are you worried
Yeah.
about you being freaked out?
No, well, one thing is you do have to be careful in the coral out here because those tigerfish that are actually poisonous, and I don't
Yeah.
want to just, hang out down there. I would like to see them in real life though. I think that would be really cool.
Well, I mean, it's fun to remind us, even though we think our problems are insurmountable and huge, it's always fun to put them, remind ourselves that we're just one of many
Yes.
of God's creatures. And
Well, go out in the ocean, even, where we live, you can like 2 feet out in the ocean. And I'm not doing scuba or snorkeling or anything. I'm just using my goggles and taking a look. 2 feet out there, you have schools of angelfish and you have like, I find it to be very meditative and grounding because like when you're sitting on the beach and you're looking out at the ocean, you just see like the waves and the color of the ocean and the sky, which is beautiful. And that's great. But when you get into the water, it's like there's this whole other crazy world there. And they're not afraid of you. They'll come up and just like the angelfish will go right in front of you and look you in the face. It's
it
very
is
cool.
incredible.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
So
It's funny too, as you and I grew up in Ohio, and we grew up in the 70s and the 80s mostly. We were born in the 70s, and we are growing up in the shadow of Jaws. And so if you
we didn't go in the water back
being
then.
from Ohio, you never thought, oh my gosh, the last thing I'm ever going to do is go to the ocean. But
Right.
the reality is, especially in most of the Caribbean, there's so few sharks that even have any remote interest in going anywhere near humans.
Yeah.
And someone said this to us a few years ago. He said, Tim, this is Rob, Julie, remember? He said, Tim, every year, do you think more people die by mosquito bites, or by shark bites? And, we can surmise it was mosquito bites, but then he actually had the numbers memorized. The number of people, and he was relating, so the number of people that died from some horrible disease or something that comes from mosquito bite is, infinitesimally larger than people that even come close to getting, but yeah, thousands. But his point is don't focus. He was trying to make a business point to us. He's a very successful business owner. And he said, don't get your mind stuck on the shark bites, the big something that might come around the corner. He said the things that will ultimately get you are the mosquito bites. So he was saying, pay attention to the details of your business, because those are the things that are really going to hurt you if you're not focused on them. So I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, I remember that, and that's really great advice. So you see how we tie everything all together eventually?
So speaking of bites, you have to take Zoe to the orthodontist. Good luck with
Yes,
that.
I know that'll be an adventure. I do have to scoot out the door for that. So I hope people have, been somewhat entertained. We did give you a bit of real estate at the top, and our regular programming Monday through Thursday is all about helping you guys be educated and motivated and get into action.
That's right. In the meantime, what is your homework? If you're ready to move forward, as many of you are, and you want to join Premier Coaching now, just go to premiercoaching.com. Either way, definitely attend one of our Harris Masterminds. We're doing probably one later today. Certainly depends on how many people register. Certainly we're doing 3 more, and we're going to keep doing them as long as you guys keep showing up. And I don't care if frequent flyers, you're more than welcome to attend, but just go to harrismastermind.com. In the meantime, thank you for keeping this #1 list to daily podcasts for real estate professionals in at least the United States. It's our pleasure and it's our honor. And if this is the first Friday podcast you've listened to and you think this is what we're talking about and you were expecting real estate coaching and training, instead you heard Julie talking about Marty and Inky the octopus, well, don't worry. You could just find one of our thousands and thousands and thousands of past podcasts that are specifically drilled down for real estate coaching and training. In the meantime, have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show on Monday.